Welcome to the Psychic Time Traveller podcast. I am a psychic who has seen over 80 of my past, present and future lives, and it is my mission to teach people about the healing power of seeing your other lives. Hello, welcome to the Psychic Time Traveller podcast. Today we welcome Elizabeth to our podcast. Elizabeth is a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner, or QHHT for short. She has been facilitating past life regressions for over a decade. 12 years ago, she healed herself naturally from a chronic illness, and ever since then, she has made it her mission to help others to self-heal and to help empower people by connecting to high consciousness through QHHT. Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome to the Psychic Time Traveller podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hello, Ashley. It's so lovely to be here with you. Thank you so much for asking me to come on your podcast.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thank you for everything. I can't wait to talk about the journey that we shared together and your life's work.
I know there's so much to talk about today.
Yeah.
Should we start with how you came to a QHHT session with me 2 years ago?
Yeah, that sounds like a good place to start.
So you came for a QHHT session with me 2 years ago in 2022, and I'm just curious as to what prompted you to book in to have a QHHT session with me.
Yeah, totally. So 2021, I'll just keep it short, but my listeners know and my followers on my Facebook page know that in 2021 I had a massive spiritual awakening and through soul recognition, where I met my own soul in another body. Crazy as that sounds. Ever since then, I've had the ability to see my other lives. So I've seen it over 80 now. So over the past 3 years, I've seen 80, yeah. But by the time I went and saw you, I probably maybe seen 20 or 30 lives. And when it was happening to me, it was just, I was just having these spontaneous memories of other lives. And I didn't really know much to do with reincarnation really before it all, that there was literature to go out and read, and I started telling my close friends and family and stuff about it. And my mum had said to me, have you read anything by Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters? And she said that her spiritual awakening, 20 years ago or something, started when she read that book. And she said it's exactly explaining what's happening to you. The only difference is that the people who were recounting these past life regressions, they were hypnotized, but you're just having them by yourself. So I started to look into that, and then from there I found out about Dolores Cannon. In all honesty, I haven't read a lot about Dolores Cannon's work. I've read bits and bobs. I haven't actually sat down and read one of her books yet, but I have read like excerpts and things like that. But someone else maybe, so when I started having these regressions, and still now, I have them through meditation. So I never try and have them, they just happen. I have them through meditation, but I also I'd go to an acupuncturist, and that's one of my episodes that's coming up, or I go and have Reiki or something, not expecting anything to happen, and I'd start having these regressions. And I think one of those practitioners had said to me, have you heard of QHHT? So I looked into that. And actually, no, you know what? It was my mum as well, because she had liked your Facebook page. And she had seen your post on, I think maybe the Swansea Belmont Facebook group or something like that. So she had known about you. Yeah, so it was my mum both times. I just remembered that. I forgot all about it. And she said, yeah, you should go and check this out. And I just thought, I'm having all these memories myself. And I'd read Brian Weiss's book, and he's just amazing. He's one of my favorite famous people. I've only got two favorite famous people, and it's him and Michael Singer, who's this sort of presence guru. And yeah, I thought, wow, if he what he got out of his hypnosis patients, I was like, imagine what people would get out of me if I was hypnotized. So I really wanted to explore being hypnotized and see, I get so much information just from not even trying. I was like, it must go next level. Must go absolute next level if I get hypnotized. So that's what really led me to you, because I wanted to see what would happen. And it's not just for fun and games, I might say that. That's really important to tell the listeners. It's really cool that I see my other lives, and I've mostly seen past lives. And that's really awesome, but it's not like, oh cool, that's what's happened in another life. I've found through seeing all these lives, it always links to something in my current life
Yes.
and it creates, you know, a healing of some respects, particularly with me physical, because I've had a lot of sickness
Yeah.
throughout my whole entire life. I've always had some physical, you know, ailment, and we'll get to it. But one of the main things that I was trying to heal at the time was my infertility. I'd been trying for a baby for 4 or 5 years. So I had these visions by myself, but I didn't think I'd peeled back enough layers. The way I like to explain it, and I'm not the only one who explains it like this, is that when I see the energetic body, it basically has layers of sludge stuck onto it, and that's been accumulated over lifetimes. So if you don't let go of trauma and stuff from other lives, it gets into your cell memory, your physical cell memory, and stays with your physical body and causes physical illnesses and things. So there was a lot that I needed to clear. I knew that through my chakras and stuff, and infertility was the biggest one that I wanted to conquer. So even though I'd had all these visions and I'd had stuff that was linked to infertility, it hadn't cleared it. Like if you read Brian Weiss's book, sometimes the people he hypnotized, like particularly in his second book, what is it? Same Soul, Many Bodies. I love that book. You know, some people when they're hypnotized and have a past life regression, they'll have a regression and then it'll be healed. Something that they linked to a past life. I remember I read one about this lady had cancer in her spine, and then she had a past life regression back to Roman times, and she was trampled by a horse and cart, and her back was crushed. And once she had that realization, her cancer, like not like overnight, but within the next few months, her cancer was cured because she'd made that correlation. Whereas I'd made correlations between other lives, but I was still suffering from infertility. So that was the main reason I came and saw you.
Yes. Can you tell us, like, what did you experience during your QHHT session?
Yeah, so I did. I'm going to talk about the one with the that was linked to the infertility first. I think I saw 2 lives really in depth, and then I mentioned a few other lives. Reviewed, like I listened back to and I read over the notes of our QHHT session just yesterday, and I'd forgotten all about the fact that there were a couple of other lives that I'd experienced, and I was like, wow, they can be added to the list now. So that's taken it to 82. But the one that's probably had one of the biggest profound effects on me as Ashley is the second one I had with you. So second life we were taken into was a German lady named Hilda, but I was calling her Hildy as a nickname. It's good. I want to point out to people and you, because you wouldn't know about this, that I had the visions with you, but just because you have a vision, or with me anyway, just because I have a vision of a life doesn't mean I just have that vision and I don't ever see it again, which is funny because that's what I thought would happen when I started having the visions. I remember before you, I went and saw another hypnosis person, and, you know, they go through the rigmarole of, you know, they take you to a place and they say, open a door, and, you know, who do you see, and look down, and I remember seeing an incarnation that I already knew about. I've already saw him. And I even said to my higher self, I already know about him. Like it was a World War I soldier. I was like, why is he here? Why am I learning about him again? You've already shown me his vision. Like, cause I'd seen his death day and everything. But what I learned, like I learned so much more through that experience. So yeah, you don't always just have the experience in the hypnosis. You can, like, I've had years apart. Yeah, years apart where I've had a vision, and then years later I've had another vision of that same incarnation that's built on the story. I was saying that, you know, my higher self, Johannes, he explains it as it's like painting a beautiful picture one bit at a time. So with Hilda, she was a German housewife, and before she was a German housewife, she was very much like me before I was a mother, and even before like me 10 years ago. So I used to live in England, for example, and I did a fair bit of traveling, and that's my favorite thing to do, travel. And she just loved traveling, and I wouldn't say she sat down and meditated like me, but she was living a meditative lifestyle. Like she would do walking meditations, and she was very present and in and now, and she was very happy. But she had these expectations put upon her by her family, by her brothers. They used to tease her, and her mum and dad used to have a go at her, and her sister. that she wasn't married, and it was the 1960s, and she was 26, and it was just not the done thing they were worried that she was going to be a spinster. So basically, Hilda's sister, who is my sister, Terry, in this life, my older sister. And it's funny because, you know, sometimes you have these visions, and I remember saying to you, is that even a German name, Jemima? And you say these names and things, and you're like, no, that doesn't make sense. And then you Google it, and it's like, oh, actually, that is a very common name in Germany, Jemima. So after the session, I went and Googled it. And then I didn't know this. When I was telling my sister about it, she's like, do you know that's one of my favorite names? I was like, what? So Jemima is one of my favorite names. One of her best friend's daughter is named Jemima. And I'm like, you're joking. So, and that was her past life name, Jemima. So there's always little links like that. Anyway, she had this pressure to get married, and she was set up with the guy next door. Now, in our QHHT session, Elizabeth, I didn't mention that he lived next door. This is what I mean. This is something that I found out later.
Yeah,
And
so interesting.
I found it very interesting too, that the way I sort of structure when I write about my experiences, I don't write about them. A lot of people like Brian Weiss and that, they write about them in terms of topics like you know, overcoming love or overcoming fear or things like that. I write about them in terms of soul relationships, because I seemed shocked at the time to see somebody in my family appear so clear, like so closely connected to me in both of those lives that I saw. But you did ask me, you asked a series of questions that we didn't record. You asked a whole bunch of questions about, you know, what's your relationship like with your family? Is anyone with you clash with and everything? And I said that I clash with my brother Geordie, which I do, and I still do to this day. Actually, at the moment, I've not been in contact with my brother for a year. But that's another story. He's a conflict with the whole family at the moment. And I was shocked to see that in both of the lives that he was my spouse. So in that life, he was my husband, George. And in the other life that we'll talk about, he was my wife, Martha. And I remember saying to you, oh, ew, gross. I'm married to my brother. And I guess that, like, a lot of people who don't know much about reincarnation, or just have like a sort of, you know, they're interested in reincarnation, but they don't know too much about it. They don't realize that the roles change. So, you know, people like to have this romantic, people like to have this romantic view that, like, oh, I love my husband so much, I hope he's my husband in every life. Like, for example, my husband, I've seen him in about 5 lives now, and most of those lives he has been my romantic partner. But in one of the lives, actually about 6 lives, one of the lives he has just been my friend. And another one of the lives, he's been my brother. So, you know, it's not always the same. So I guess for some people that would be a shock to see that they were married to their brother. So yeah, and Hilda had a really tumultuous relationship with George, the husband. And I'm not surprised, because I still have a tumultuous relationship with my brother. And it was a lot of domestic violence, and it was a marriage of convenience. And I remember saying to you, and because I read the notes last night, my higher self kept talking about Ezio Trot, which is a Roald Dahl book. And I'm like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? And I'm like, I don't even know if I've read that book. And I went and Googled it, and I'd already had the vision that George had lived he was our next door neighbour, my family's next door neighbour, and then my sister had set us up. But Ezio Trot is about, like, neighbours.
Right.
And I was like, wow, okay, that's why you were talking about Ezio Trot. It's a lot, it's about other stuff too, but it had a link to do with neighbours. So he was trying to give me a hint that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she married this guy. They had 5 kids. Her youngest one died. Oh, no, not her youngest one. No, that was her younger brother who died of pneumonia. They had 5 kids under 10. And I just remember feeling, and I hate to, it's hard to say, but I just hated, like, I loved my children. I really did. But being a mum to 5 kids under 10 is hard. It's
work,
really
yeah.
hard. And I had no help, because my husband was a bastard. I remember saying that very clearly. He was Italian.
Yes.
I remember calling him a bastardo. And he was just no help. And I was just in this humdrum of, like, every day, like just a Groundhog Day of just living the same day again and again and again, and not having any freedom. And I was just a mum. That was it. And I remember I saw it so clearly. It was like one of those early dust busters, like a vacuum cleaner. And I was vacuuming, and I remember holding the handle so tight and feeling the vinyl in my hands and just sort of hating life. And I guess what I'm trying to say is what I learnt through Hilda is that she was happy when she had what I had as Ashley. So the traveling and the freedom and being able to meditate and things. And here I was as Ashley, dying to be a mother, and putting so much focus on that's where my happiness was going to come from. And she was telling me, yeah, you know, being a mum's not all that's cracked up to me. Being a mum's hard. And I'm going to be honest with you, I love being a mum too. But it hit me like a freight train. Like in this life, it's actually, it hit me like a freight train. And, you know, what I want to say is that it's really funny because after that, I had that experience with you and that vision. I could let it go. I could go, you know what? Maybe it's not all what it's cracked up to be. And like, I think within that week, I'm not even joking, within that week after I saw you, I had a big chat to my husband and I was like, let's just hold up about the baby. I'm ready to let it go. We actually, it's her bedroom now, but we had for years we had this bedroom set aside for the baby. And I had said to him the day before I found out I was pregnant, I broke down in tears and I walked into the room with him and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep I'm going to get teary now. I can't keep leaving this room for this baby that might not ever come. And I said, I need to fill it with some stuff, turn it into an office or something. I'm ready to close the chapter and on this and walk away for it. And I was really at peace with it. Honestly, for the first time in 5 years, I was at peace with not being a mum. And that week, so literally the week of me having this QHHT session with you, we organised our honeymoon. So we got married in late 2022 and I had the session with you in April of 2022. We organised a round the world trip. And because I love travelling, but I hadn't travelled in 10 years or so at that time. And I said, I just knew that that's what Hilda would have wanted, you know. She'd even travelled to some of the places that I loved, and it made sense. Like when I lived in England, I went to Switzerland. It was just one of the places on my tour, and I thought I didn't think I'd find it very interesting at all, but it ended up being my favourite country that I visited. And I actually loved skiing on the Swiss Alps. So I was like, oh, that makes total sense. And that's one of the things I did. I went and snowboarded on the Swiss Alps and stuff. So I was like, let's do this. Let's book it in. He paid for it, non-refundable trip. And within 3 weeks of having a session with you, I found out I was pregnant. Yeah, and it was like the first time I'd stopped trying for a baby. You know, I'd been following all these ovulation charts and, you know, eating really healthily and all that stuff. And I just let it go. And I just thought, let's just enjoy life. And you didn't go and be elated. But I was like, oh, man, what about my honeymoon? Yeah, so we never got to go on the honeymoon because I was heavily pregnant by that stage that we booked it in. Luckily, I got a refund on it, even though it was non-refundable. They just used the COVID thing. They could still use that at the time. But yeah, this is what I'm trying to tell people, that like this is the healing power of being able to see your past lives. If I didn't have that memory of what it was when I was Hilda and seeing how hard it was as a mother and letting it go, because this is what I've come to learn, you know, even just recently, that this is the whole reason in particular that I'm seeing other lives. It's because the whole purpose of it is that we need to let go of our other incarnations. We need to focus on our own incarnation. Otherwise, like I said, we hold on to their traumas and then they manifest into physical ailments or emotional things that really affect us. And we should just be, I mean, could you imagine how much happier and healthier we'll be if we're just focusing on us?
Definitely.
And not carrying these things with us. So that was my amazing experience from that. But that was only one life.
Yes.
Something else that I'd seen that hadn't came up, I did see other soul relationships of people in my life. I saw that my brother Jackson was potentially an old flame that I should have married. And I told you about that. But something that came through later was that my youngest was a baby. And I remember telling you that she was a baby at first and she had peach fuzz hair, like peach fuzz's hair. And what was I going to say? And one of the last things I saw in the vision was that I was at her wedding day, and I was like not happy she was getting married because I thought she was just going to. I just thought marriage was horrible because of my own experience, and I sort of ruined that day through my crappy, behavior of. I just wasn't being a very supportive mum on her wedding day, and I remember her saying to me, "Oh, shut up, mum!" And this is going to make. There's a point to this, like the way she spoke to me. I later had a vision that Ava, so I didn't know her name at the time, the daughter, but Ava is actually my youngest sister, Alex. And I am a mum figure to my youngest sister, Alex, because I'm 15 years older than her. And when I listened back to this QHHT session with you, because you record it, and I let my mum listen to it, and I told her about how I'd made that connection that Alex was Ava. And she said to me, "Do you remember what colour Alex's hair was when she was born?" And I said, "No," because I was only 15 at the time.
Yeah.
She said, "We literally described it as peach fuzz."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just like amazing. And then I later saw that Ava died a young woman in the 80s, I think it was. No, actually, it was just before Alex's birth in 2001. She died in a car accident. And at the time, I told my sister this. She's 23 now, so she was only like 20 at the time when I told her this. But at the time, she was putting off getting her license. And I didn't even think about that. I told her that she died in a car accident.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, crap, probably shouldn't have told you that because you're already scared of driving. But you know what? This is not an exaggeration. Within a month, she went and got a piece. And then she's never looked back.
Yeah.
So it's like she subconsciously had, like, because she had a real fear of driving. Like, she was learning how to drive, but it was really, I mean, she'd been learning for years, and it was really sort of stretched out and prolonged. And she was really putting off getting a license. And it's like she subconsciously made that connection that the fear might have been associated with dying in a car crash from that life.
Yes.
And then, honestly, within a month, we've been pushing her and pushing her, and her friends have been pushing her, and her partner at the time. And then, just all of a sudden she turned around and she said, "Oh, yeah, I got my license."
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
so great.
It's pretty amazing that these recollections sometimes not only have a profound effect on you, but on your loved ones. So, and that wasn't the only life that I saw with you.
Yeah, there was so much. Oh my gosh, your session was amazing. There was so much details that came through.
Yeah. The other one I had, and there's some stuff from this life that I saw later on as well that makes total sense, is I was a man who lived in Nevada during the 1800s. I remember this because his name came through so clearly, Pete Davey. And I was saying that, before we actually go into the hypnosis part of the QHHT thing, which you'll probably explain soon, is that you, or you can now if you want, like you sort of have like certain questions that you ask people, don't you?
To get people into hypnosis, you're asking how to get people
into
hypnosis?
Because one of the questions, like you asked, like I said,
you
you asked about the trauma, like, or not trauma, but like, did I clash with anyone in my family? And I said about Geordie and how that came up. But you also asked me another question about something I wanted to know that I wanted to heal. And it linked directly to that life, and it makes sense why I have that physical it's sort of like a disability in this life. And that was, I'm extremely short-sighted, very, like, seriously, I'm nearly legally blind. And it ended up linking to Pete Davies' life because the way he died is that I was married to Geordie again. He was my wife, Martha, and he was a much better partner in this life than as George. But he was always sort of going on to me about, we need to make more money, which is funny because in this life, he's like that. And I've had other visions of Geordie and otherwise, even a future life, I've seen Geordie as my father, and he's still obsessed with money.
Right.
So that's a lesson that he's still needing to learn. So I'd taken this sort of new, sort of dangerous job. And it's so funny because I didn't even know when I was seeing this vision, I was explaining to you what was happening, but I was like, is this a thing? Like, was this a thing? And when I went home and Googled it, it was a thing. And my job was to put the brakes on the train because it was the 1800s and trains were fairly new. So they didn't have a braking system inside the actual train, like where the driver was. I remember explaining it to you, on the side of the train, they had a lever that you had to pull up. And when I went home and Googled it, it was a job, and it was a job called a brakeman. That was a literal job.
Right.
So, and that was quite dangerous because you were hanging off the side of a train.
Yeah. On the outside.
So what had happened
Not where one
was,
would want to be.
No, yeah. I was like, I just like, wow. So that was an actual thing. Because I remember seeing the lever so clearly and pulling it in the train going, to, brake. And basically, we've been taken over by highwaymen and were robbed. And I wasn't shot by the highwaymen, but the train sort of jutted to a stop. I think they made the carriages misalign, like the train derailed essentially, and the carriages collided. And I'll never forget this because I saw it so clearly. And my head popped like a watermelon. That's how he explained it. And I remember him saying, "No more Pete Davey." And it was pretty funny.
I
He was
remember
like,
that too. Yes,
yeah, it was just funny. He's like, "Poor Pete Davey," and he sort of explained it was like trying to put a watermelon into a vase. That's how like the pressure. But the link to that is that he was saying that his eyes literally popped out of his head, and that's like part of the cause of my very short-sightedness in this life. But something that I later found out that I haven't had a chance to talk to you about is that I saw who the highwayman was that had robbed us and killed, like murdered all these people. At the time, I was in a job and I had this new boss, and this new boss was so horrible to me. She was really jealous of me. She was threatened by me because I had her job before she came. And I didn't have the university qualifications to do that job in a permanent capacity. But if I did, I would have had that job. So she knew I was a threat, and she knew that the only reason I didn't have the job is because I didn't have the qualifications. So she sort of made my life hell for all of 2020. And anyway, it came through that she was the highwayman that killed me.
Right.
And I was like, wow, no wonder I hate you then. I guess you sort of, you ended up sort of killing me. But do you know what the funny thing is? And I know this sounds like people, who are listening and everything, you're like, yeah. Like, seriously, from when I had that realization, for some reason, she just left me alone. She just left me alone because I don't know. I just had the realization, oh, okay, that's why we're at loggerheads with each other. And God knows what else we've done to each other in past lives. That's the only life I've seen of that she's been in. And I don't have anything to do with her anymore. But yeah, she was the cause of my death.
Yeah, right.
So, and then when I saw that, and I could sort of, I guess I just became a lot more gentle towards it, just naturally. Yeah, she just started to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And just was like, I wouldn't say she was super nice to me, but she was definitely amicable and nice. So it's like the energy had changed between us.
Definitely.
Yeah, something else interesting that happened in that life that I had another vision of, which is really cool, that not many people really know about, is like the reincarnation of animals. So Pete had a horse named Black Beauty, and she was black with white socks. And I don't think I saw that in the vision with you. I saw that later, and that's my dog now, and her name is Betty, and she's a pug, and it's sort of like Black Betty, so Black Beauty, Black Betty, and she also has white socks. Yeah, so she followed, like, it's a really beautiful, and Betty's not the only animal I've seen follow me from another life. I've also actually I've seen Betty have a past life as a golden retriever, but I've also seen me have a past life as a golden retriever. It's one of my actual favorite visions I've ever had of a past life, because I was just so free and happy running and scratching my back on the grass and stuff.
Beautiful.
And I haven't seen the link, but I would assume that maybe we were related. We might have been in the same litter. Actually, no, you know what? My higher self is saying that. He's like, of course you know this. Of course, if you're having these thoughts, that's what it was. So Betty and I were in the same litter. So
it's so beautiful.
It is. Through having this ability, I've always been an animal person, but like some people are like really animal people, like my husband.
Yes.
But since I've especially seen the animal reincarnation stuff, I've grown so much closer to animals, and I have this great love now for animals, because you can reincarnate as anything. They're just as everyone's equal. Animals, humans, we're all the same. We're all source. We're all the same energy, and no one's lesser than anyone else. And it's unfortunate
that you're going to come in through.
Yes, unfortunate some people, they just automatically treat, animals as being a lesser form just because, I don't know, they don't talk like humans and things, but they're not. I mean, I always make the joke, and Johannes is telling me it's not a joke, it's because you knew it, that my dog, I've got 2 pugs. My other dog, Biggie, and I've seen him in another life. And my husband says the same thing. We call him Human Dog because he's got a face that looks like a human. And
Really?
I've always said he was a human in a past life. And I tell you what, from having that vision of being the golden retriever, I can so see why he's reincarnated as a dog form as well. Because being a dog is awesome, so happy and free, and just full of love. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I fully get if you decided to be a dog, and or he could be still a human in other incarnations. Like they're all
Yeah.
simultaneous, aren't they? But
Yes.
the biggest. We'll get back to the lessons because that's the most important thing. The biggest lesson I learned about Pete Davey is that he had his wife in his ear going, "Oh, you need to get this job and needs to earn more money, and we could be doing better." But they had a really good life. It was a simple life, but they were happy. They had these beautiful kids. They lived on this beautiful ranch, like this beautiful farmland and stuff. And I just remember so clearly when I died and I was rising above and looking at the scene of what was happening. Like I could see people being murdered and stuff, but I was already dead. I was out of my body. All I remember really clearly is the regret of I had it. I had the dream life. I had this dream life, and I would still have this dream life if I didn't take this dangerous job. This dangerous job killed me, and that lesson has stayed with me. Like sometimes, where we live, it's a big mining community, and I've got heaps of friends' husbands that work in the mines, and they earn tons of money. And I, before this, used to be to my husband, "Oh yeah, you should get a job in the mines," blah 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 blah. But now I'm like, you know what? It's not worth it.
Not worth
It's
it,
so
yeah.
not worth it. We have a great life. We really, really do.
Mhm.
Money is not everything. I've had 80 visions, guys, and I've never had a vision where I've died and I thought, oh, geez, I wish I earned more money.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
geez, I wish I had these physical things. It's
Mhm.
always been like a regret about the people in my life and the love, that I had for them. It's got nothing to do with physical material things. It's got to do with connection to people. That's it. That's the only thing that has gone through my head. And I've seen myself die so many times in different incarnations. And that's the only thing that's really, stuck with me that, especially in that life, like the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And at that time in my life as Ashley, I was on a career track to earn more money. And obviously my psychic ability has sort of really changed me as well, but it really did made me take a step back from that in my life too, because I'm like, the most important thing is the connections you have with people and the time that you have with them. And money can't buy time. Money can't buy time and connections with people. So I stopped caring so much about, not that I was ever money hungry, but, everyone to some extent wants to, live comfortably.
Yes.
And I stopped caring so much about that sort of aspect of my life and just enjoying what I had and just enjoying what was my present circumstances. So, yeah, thank you so much
Oh,
for
you're welcome.
the incredible experience. And like I said, I completely forgot, but I had, like, right at the end, you had asked me all these things because you were just talking to my higher self, and he was mentioning other lives, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot about that. And when I was reading it last night, because I transcribed the audio, I totally forgot about the life where I was in an orphanage. And actually, I haven't written it down yet, but it came through because I was like, oh, I wonder where that is. I was like, geez, I've had a lot of lives in England. And they're like, no, it was in Belgium. So I was I was in a Belgian orphanage, and I've always had this, as Ashley, I've always had this incessant need to please people. Like I've just got to be like the best person ever to people and please them in any way and impress them and stuff. And it was because in that life as an orphan, I lived in an orphanage and I was getting older and I had to convince these people to try and adopt me, just like to be the best version of myself and hope that I would be adopted. I was like, God, I'm getting teary now. It really hit me hard. I was like, well, that makes so much sense.
So many aha moments from your
Yeah.
session.
I was like, that makes so much sense. And had a very cathartic experience last night.
Wow. And this is 2 years later, can I just say, like to point out to listeners that that's the amazing thing about quantum healing sessions is that not only do you get so much from the session, like the day of, but you're now still getting information and healing and release and so much 2 years
Exactly.
later, which is why it's so important to, keep a hold of your recording and to listen to it again and to think about it. And
Yes.
mm,
And I'm
I'm
so
so
grateful
happy
that
for
you did
you.
that. Thank you. I'm so grateful that you did that for me. And it's even funny, like even things he was saying in it, I was like, wow, this is really resonating with me. He was mentioning like my right ear pain and right hip pain. And I'm literally have that at the moment. I'm like still, and I didn't even think about it, but he was talking about in both of the lives that I was like those 2 lives that came through really clearly. I was gritting my teeth, and I still have a bit of an issue with gritting my teeth. And it's like, oh wow, it's just funny the things that you carry from other incarnations that stay
Yes.
with you. It's
Yeah.
just little things like that are just crazy. I'm going to ask you a question now about your experience with seeing me in the seat, because you have re-listened to it recently too. I could talk about it, but what was it like for you seeing me? Because something that, and I want you to talk about this, is that something that was different for me from other ones is that, especially with Hilda, I started speaking German.
Yes.
And
I wanted to talk about that actually.
yeah, go. You
So
explain it. Yeah.
so too, last night, the night before, can't remember now, lost track of time, but
Yeah.
I dug out your recording and wanted to listen to it to refresh, because it's been 2 years,
Yeah.
so of course I couldn't remember all the details, but I do remember how humor came through your session, because I think it's really important for people to know this too, that it's not all super, super serious, these sessions. There was so much humor that came through these characters that you connected with and learnt from. And sorry, I forget now. Did you want to talk about one in particular, like Hilda or Pete
I was
Daly?
just like,
They're both so
I just
humorous.
wanted to, because I know that you were surprised that I was speaking in German too, and I just wanted to say
the German thing, yeah.
to you in particular that I don't know German. I learnt
I
German in
wanted
year
to ask
7.
you, yes.
I learnt German very sort of beginner basic German in year 7.
Right, yes.
But the way it was coming out of my mouth, it was like my natural tongue.
So natural.
Because I just remember, instead of
yes.
thinking like mum, I went mutti straight away.
Yes,
Or if
yes.
instead of saying goodbye, I went choose straight away. And I remember you would have heard me. I was cracking up laughing at myself. And then
Yes.
I would say things in German, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And you would say to me, well, ask what it means.
Yeah, because I had no idea. I don't speak German.
Yeah, I didn't either. And when I went home and Googled it, it did make sense. I think something was like Breckenmeyer or something like that. I don't know what it was. And I think I said
it wasn't just one words either. Sometimes you did like phrases.
Yeah, I know, but I honestly can't speak German. It's crazy.
I thought that was so cool, and it just goes to show, that this information can come through in this way, and it obviously came through that way for a reason too.
Yeah.
So you could go look it up and also get that extra confirmation of just how cool this stuff is.
Yes, I looked up so many
that your
things
conscious
that
mind doesn't know.
Yeah, like even like Nevada, I saw it so clearly, and I saw mountains, and I'm like, well, I don't really know much about Nevada, but I know it's a desert. Why would there be a mountain there? And I found an image of exactly what I saw. I was like,
that's so cool.
It is so cool. It's just amazing. I wish I had the ability to draw, so I could draw what I was seeing.
Yeah.
But it's really great that in this day and age that we do have Google, and we can Google things. And
oh yeah, that's come in handy a lot of times for many different clients.
Yeah, and make those correlations. It's just nice to
understand.
also have that confirmation that you're not just making it up, and you're not crazy. A lot of people think it's their imagination, but that is how a psychic ability works. It works through your imagination. You're not making it up. You're just seeing what is actually has occurred,
spot on
in that life.
I think it's really normal, and it's important for people to know this too, that it's a really normal human thing and a left brain thing to go, did I just make all that up? After everyone finishes their session, pretty much everyone goes, I just feel like I made the whole thing up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's okay. Everyone feels that way. And it's just a normal thing that as a collective, we all think that at some point. Like even me, I'm, a trained practitioner. And when I go in as a client, I still, at some part of me still thinks, did I just make that up too? And I'm doing this all the time.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how we're all just wired like that to have some sort of doubt in us and to think,
that we judge it, don't we? We look at it
yeah, so
externally and judge it. But I remember reading Brian Weiss's book, and this really resonates with me. He didn't say it like this, but I'm like, this is how I say it. And so I'm mincing his words, but he basically said, who cares? Who cares if it's made up? If it's given you some sort of healing, isn't that the main thing?
yeah,
I mean, look at that. I'm telling you now, I don't think my little girl would be here if I didn't connect with Hilda. You know, it was the first time I could finally let go and, and go, you know what, even though motherhood is a beautiful thing, motherhood's not all that it's cracked up to be. And I was at peace for the first time in my life. I was at peace with not being a mum.
That's huge. Such deep healing.
Yeah. And, you know, that's the power of surrender, I suppose. And as soon as I could let that go, and this is what I've been saying, and I've been finding that the whole point, especially with me, this is why I've got this sort of very unique ability that I can see so many lives, is the whole point of it is to let go of my other incarnations. Johannes, my high self, was even saying to me, when I was listening back to the track the other night, he was even saying, you know, don't get so caught up with it, because I tend to, especially it was in the middle of that. I remember I said I had to take a pause because I had to shake off the energy of Pete Davey, because I just become them. And I forget who Ashley is. Sometimes even days after, I will still have their mannerisms and things. It's crazy. And even walk or talk like them, or have cravings for food that they ate. I had this one that I'll talk about in another podcast with the acupuncture lady I saw, because I had the vision on her table. But I had this one, and I was an Indian lady. After it, I had the biggest craving for dal. I've never eaten dal in my life. I wasn't even sure what dal was. I went into town in Newcastle to Derby Raj or something, and went and got dal. And I reckon I ate dal for like 3 days straight, because it just was like, oh my God, I've never eaten it before, but I was just in that energy of her. And she obviously ate that and liked it. And I'd never had it before. I didn't know what it was.
And so you obviously liked it. You enjoyed it.
Yes, I liked it, but I just knew, I just had this knowing in my soul, deep in my soul, I like dal. I'm going to go and eat some. And I went and ate some. So even though that's cool, you need to be me. It's really important that you be present and shake off that, because they're still they're in that timeline doing their thing. You need to be in your timeline doing your thing.
Most
and
definitely. That's what I tell
if you
people.
associate with them too much, take on too much of their energy, and the point of it is to let their energy go, so you don't take on their trauma. So it's not a great thing to sort of constantly think about it.
Yeah. And then one of the main points of why people come to a quantum healing session is to get information about their soul, like, to remember things and to help them for their lifetime now. Like you said, it's all about, you've got to heal for Ashley now in this life. So let's keep coming back to Ashley and, Ashley's journey. So it's great to learn about all these things about what you've done in another life, but it's really important to heal from that and to be able to move forward in the best way possible and focus on your journey now. And it all is interconnected. It's never, people don't ever just come in and get random lives and then it's got nothing to do with their list of questions that they come in with and their problems that they've got going on, in this life right now. It's always all connected. So it comes rolled into a nice little package for people. Yeah. Their session.
Go. I was going to say, you've just segued into a perfect question for me, but go for it.
No, you go, because I was about to go on to something else.
Oh, no, I was going to say, so you've talked to me about your own healing journey. Yeah, I would love to hear about your own healing journey, because you're explaining to me that's how you got into QHHT.
Yeah, look, everyone lately seems to be asking me, how did you get into this line of work? And so, yeah, here we go. So your question was, how did I self-heal?
Yeah.
Okay, so the short answer, well, actually there is no short answer. Let me explain it, because it's so multifaceted. It's a whole body-mind answer, to be honest. So beautiful. I followed my intuition first and foremost. Okay, so did we explain what I had? I had Crohn's disease.
No, we didn't.
I don't know if we actually mentioned that. So if you know what that is, or even if you don't know what that is, this thing called Crohn's disease is an illness that doctors today say can't be healed. And at the time when I was diagnosed, I actually didn't even know anything about what Crohn's disease was. However, I followed my intuition first and foremost, which told me that I could heal. So I had a really strong intuitive thing come through. The specialist was saying, I'm so sorry, this can't be healed. You just have to sort of live with this for the rest of your life and be on these steroid drugs.
God.
But even though they were telling me that it couldn't be healed, I had this really strong intuition telling me that I could, even though I had no idea what this thing was.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first time where I really
Sorry.
You're all right, are you okay?
Yeah, too much talking, I think.
So logically I had no idea how to even heal or what even Crohn's disease was at the time, but deep down I knew I could heal, and it was a very strong knowing, and it was my higher self and guides, telling me that I could heal. So I was obviously motivated by this feeling, this urge of knowing that I could heal. And I spent all of my free time researching about health and wellness and alternative ways to heal. And I came across Bruce Lipton's book. A lot of people have heard of The Biology of Belief. And so I learned about how powerful our minds are, and that we can actually change our biology with our mind, which is huge. Like, some people would think that's crazy, but I proved it to be true because I did it. So I used visualization and I used affirmations every day, focusing on the outcome I wanted, which was to heal, not, because sometimes we can accidentally get caught up and focus on the wrong thing about, just the disease. But to heal, you have to actually focus on what outcome you do want, the healing of it. So I was, visualizing what a healthy bowel looked like, because Crohn's disease, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's an inflammatory bowel disease. And I had no idea, what a healthy bowel was meant to look like. And so Google to the rescue again, like you with your sessions, don't we just love the internet and Google. I looked up what a healthy bowel looked like, and I was visualizing that every day, many times a day. And I was doing affirmations every day, focusing on that healing outcome, which was obviously to heal it. And I also implemented a chemical-free lifestyle, so like eating only natural foods and using only natural products on my body and around my environment in the home, because I learned about like the detrimental effects that chemical and toxins had on the body. Yeah. And I also used energy healing and visualized white light entering into my body. So I did all of these things many times a day.
Wow.
So it really was a body, mind, spirit effort, along with obviously, having persistence, courage and determination. And I've been cured of that disease now for 12 years.
That's amazing.
Symptoms or anything. And, a lot of people think, oh, yeah, whatever, you're just in remission, it'll come back. But, 12 years is a really long time. And to be honest, even, I count those 12 years after 2 years of healing. And to be honest, I think I really completely healed within 1 year, but I just, kept doing my thing. And even to this day, look, I still, have quite a healthy lifestyle, but I can eat anything I want, so I've come a long way. So,
wow,
but I was very strict for 2 years, completely. Completely strict for 2 years. So I hope my story helps people to understand how powerful, human beings are and what we're capable of, that we do have the power within to heal. And I'm not saying, we're here to then be able to heal everything, because everyone's here on a different life journey, and some people are meant to, on their soul path to get a disease and to, to not heal in that way. But I definitely think it's important that people know that you can, that it is possible.
I'm so glad you said that. That is so true. Like sometimes you carry, like I said, traumas from other lives that, you've got to let go of and heal in some way. Other times you sign up for it.
Yes.
Sometimes you go
things, to understand things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You might have been on the opposite end of it, that you've cared for someone with like a condition like that. So in the next life, you're like, oh, I want to see what it's like to actually have that.
Yes,
what they went through. Maybe you resented caring for them or something, so you wanted to go on the other side and see what they went through, or, just there's so many little things that could add up to why you have these things. I recently wrote a post about, I am very short statured and I am overweight, but that links to so many things from so many lives. It's not funny. it's people who know lots about reincarnation. It's a common thing that if you've suffered sexual abuse in a past life, that, or even in a current life, that you'll put on weight. But, that was just one facet of it. There were lives there where I was quite skinny and timid, and I was told that I needed to bulk up and be big and strong. So I kept wishing that I was big. So I sort of got my wish in this life, but not exactly how I planned it. Or in another life, I wish that I've had several lives as a monk, and I wish to be like Buddha. So I sort of have like I'm this little sort of round person now, like Buddha. I wanted to be a little golden Buddha. And that's my last name, Golden. So I got that wish
I
too,
love that.
just little things like that. Or I've been told that like in other lives, I've been quite tall and I've used that to intimidate people. So I've had that sort of power taken away from me, and I'm now short. So there are so many facets that go into why you are the way you are. It's, and it's definitely not just to do with this life. Like, yeah, of course things play a part in creating disease and stuff in this life, but could be from, tens, 10 or 20 lives, or 100 lives. It's all these elements, like I said, it's that's Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body, and it's just learning how to shed that and let it go, to heal yourself. And you might have set out, you might be like, wouldn't it be like, Hannah has told me, like for example, my sister just got gastric bypass surgery, right? And that's a way that I could go to try and lose weight. But he's like, no, I set this up because I want to make it a goal that I want to try and lose weight energetically. Like, that's what my higher self wants to do. So that's a cheat way. Don't do it. I'm not saying, like, if you want to do that, that's fine. But for me, he's like, if you do that, you're just going to have to repeat this lesson in another life. You know what I mean? So that's not the goal for me as Ashley, like as my incarnation.
That's it. We all have our own goals and our lessons to learn on our
Yeah, exactly. So you could have set up
life.
the Crohn's disease things for God knows what reason. You know what I mean? So I love that you've just touched on that. So yeah. So from that, how did you get into QHHT?
So that's what I've been saying recently is, people go, oh yeah, how did you get into this line of work? And again, okay. So the short answer is it's my destiny. Like, it's my life purpose to help to help others. But the long answer is that I started a career as a high school teacher. So I taught in schools for almost a decade.
Wow.
Teaching and helping others came naturally, and I knew I was meant to help others, but I also knew intuitively that I wasn't meant to stay in the schooling system for my whole life. So during the time while I was teaching, I became ill and learned how to heal myself, like I told you about the Crohn's disease. But also during that time, I also learned about consciousness, the power of the mind, other civilizations, energy and frequency, and different healing modalities, one of which was quantum healing, QHHT. So, I also studied a little bit of numerology and found out that my life path number is a 33. So if you're unaware of what a life path number means, it's basically the blueprint of your life's journey, which you can find out from your birth date. Yeah. And so someone born with a life path number of 33 is known as a master teacher. So they're known as healers and spiritual teachers, showing others how to connect to their own heart and consciousness. So, and one of the greatest lessons for a 33 is to face a series of obstacles where one has to heal themselves before they can exercise their power of healing others. So you can hear how that correlates to the Crohn's disease and
definitely
other things I have healed, which can be another time.
Yeah,
but
that's an unusual number to have, though, isn't it? Like, mine's 9. Like, I thought that was sort of, they're mostly just like 1 to 9, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's many different numbers that you can have, and numerology, like I said, it gives you the blueprint to your soul's journey. And just talking about you being a 9, and how earlier you kept saying a lot that you had to let go of like all your other incarnations and focus on Ashley. And did you know that a life path 9 is? Yeah, it says that. Like, if you look up what it is,
I didn't know that. No, I just knew it was humanity. Like, something about being a humanitarian, which does align with
Yes.
who I am.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a life path number 9, it's drawn to careers that align with a desire to create a better world and help others, a humanitarian, like you said. So you've been a school teacher and you're a psychic time traveler, so helping humanity from many different
Yeah,
angles.
true.
And a life path number 9, it's like a highly evolved, you're a highly evolved being, and you're destined to be like natural leaders. So you're obviously going to be, leading like spiritual teachings through what you're doing now.
Oh, wow. I hope
Yeah.
so. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
here for. Like, you know that
Yeah.
you're here for the QHHT. This is, like I said, this is not just, I'm not learning this just for fun to go, oh, wow, this is cool. It's for a
Mm-hmm.
specific purpose to teach others about the healing power of connecting with other lives
Most definitely. And it's your destiny. That's what you're here to do. And that, like I said, it's cool that it's shown in the numbers too. But of course, a lot of people, they come to a quantum healing session with questions. And one of the main top questions is usually, what's my purpose in this life? And so they'll get that from their session, the answers, when they connect to higher consciousness. But I just think it's really cool too, how it's literally shown in your numbers as well.
Yeah, that is really cool. I didn't know that about my life path at all. So with QHHT, you're saying that that's one thing that people come and ask you, like, and I think that even I think I asked that question of what's my life purpose at the time. And it was funny because the things that my higher self was telling me to do, I'm doing now. I'm starting to obviously publish my work and stuff, which is good. And I'd honestly forgotten that he told me to do it even back then, 3 years ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I'm so glad you're following, the guidance of your higher self, and you're doing it.
Yeah, well, thank you for helping me get there and facilitate it. I'd love to hear about sort of any other benefits that you feel that QHHT has for people.
Oh, there's so many. So one of the main benefits is that it helps people to realize that there's more to them than just this one life, and that there's more to them than just their physical body.
Yeah, so true.
So many people think, this is their only life, and they're running around like mad trying to do everything they can and stressing out and thinking, we've got to achieve it all in this life. But yeah, it helps you to realize that you are consciousness having a human experience in a human body, and we are multi-dimensional beings, which I know that you probably talk about a lot in your podcasts and on your page. So for some people, it helps them to not fear death anymore, because I think that's another huge thing of a lot of people.
Oh, definitely. I've got no fear of death anymore. Yeah. Zero.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And that's so great. That can be so healing. So when people come and they go through the process of, seeing and experiencing another life, and then, to get to the next part of it where we connect to higher consciousness, they've got to go through the death scene and find out how they pass. And everyone says the same thing, that no matter what they're shown, no matter what kind of death they have, whether it's something very gentle, like, passing away in a bed and, of old age, and,
or having your head crushed by a train.
I was about to say that, or poor Pete Davey, and to the other extreme. And you could laugh about it too. Like, it's all very...
he could laugh about it, which was good. Yeah, well, we're the same person, I guess. He, it's all the same. But, yeah, it's good. I was about to say that, or maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but no, I think I do feel this. I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to death. Obviously not. But I'm not... I've, got that much... I've lost so much fear of it. It's like... It's like, oh, yeah, okay, I get to go home sort of thing. You know what I mean? That movie's done.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so healing for a lot of people, to be able to walk away from their session going, okay, wow, I don't fear death anymore. Or, if they've come in and they've lost a loved one and they're really missing them, and sometimes they come through, their spirit comes through and they connect with them. And that's really healing too, because they really realize, wow, their spirit, they're still around. You
keep your soul family. They just play different roles. Exactly. My dad was not spiritual at all, and it's really funny. Through my spiritual awakening, he had a spiritual awakening.
Really?
My mum has been spiritual for my whole life, and obviously I said that she read that Brian Weiss book 20 or so years ago. I didn't know that until I started telling her about my experiences. But She'd read all these sort of things, my dad had zero interest, like, nah, whatever, mum's doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And mum started telling him about what was happening to me. And I don't know how it happened, but he started reading Brian Weiss. And
Wow.
he had this massive sort of spiritual awakening from it. And he had told my mum and then me that it brought him a lot of healing, because his mum died when he was young, like maybe late 20s. And he was super close to his mum, and he's still not over it. Like, it's just stuck with him. And my dad's 70 something now. And I'm going to get teary because he said it gave him so much healing knowing that he would see his mum again.
Yeah.
You see, she's not just his mum in this life, that she's been other things, and she will be other things.
Yes.
And my dad has changed so much just from reading books about it and hearing my experiences.
That's so good.
He used to be a fairly cranky man. My father and I previously did not have a good relationship at all. But now we have a really good relationship. Like I said, I was like, oh, Dad, like I even said just when we were about to record this podcast, he started ringing me. I was like, this is not the right time, Dad. But, previous to this, he would never have rang me, ever. So our relationship has changed so much. And I've seen several lives. Actually, out of everyone in my soul group, I've probably seen lives of my dad the most. In different roles.
Really?
Sometimes he's been my dad. Actually, most times he's been my dad. But sometimes he was once my fiance that left me at the altar.
Oh, really?
And it's funny because he left me waiting, and I was just seething that he left me waiting. And like I said, previously I didn't have the best relationship with my dad. One of the things that happened in my childhood is that he wouldn't pick us up on time after school. We would have to wait. And and in this life, I was seething that I had to wait for him, and I was like, "Wow, this makes so much sense. We're repeating some patterns here." Yeah, it's sort of amazing. Just the links that you make through seeing other lives.
Yeah.
Can you think of any, like, not necessarily client experiences, but have you heard of any other memorable experiences of QHHT sessions with, that you've read about or anything, or your own, or?
That's a big, wide question.
Sorry.
Should we focus? Because, as you know, obviously my sessions where clients come, it's all confidential and everything.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't really read upon a lot of other people's stuff. I'm so busy doing my own thing.
Fair enough.
I obviously do have some testimonials on my website where people have shared their experience and feedback on what's happened with them. And obviously that some have had some physical healing in terms of irritable bowel syndrome and
oh wow,
I'm not sure if this one's on my website or not, about a gentleman's knees. A lot of older people have knee problems and things like that. There's so many different ways that people get healing. It's not just all physical, but it's, emotional, and there's so many different levels, isn't there?
Yeah, it's not just always physical. It's definitely always, like I said about when I linked to that orphanage one.
Yeah.
I had like a really emotional reaction to it. Well, it didn't link to me anything physically, but it linked to my incessant need to please people. I mean, that's the emotional aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it's not always.
It's been wonderful hearing about all your stuff, because I didn't even, know of half of the things that you've said today. So I feel like you've sort of given the viewers a lot of examples of what can come from a session too. Like some of the starseeds who come, they really they feel like they don't know exactly where they're from, and sometimes they do get the answers, and sometimes specifically like this planet and this being and whatever, and sometimes they don't. But quantum healing can really help to connect them with their galactic family, and so that's just so huge when you're feeling like, what am I doing here, what am I meant to be doing, and then they realize they're here to help humanity, to help raise the consciousness here and to help humanity evolve, and that they are from somewhere else. And there's so much peace in that, when you just feel so lost or you feel like I'm meant to be doing something, am I even doing enough? And then they get that healing from their session. And a lot of people obviously just get a lot of clarification about their life journey. You know, a lot of people come in feeling really stuck and unsure and confused, or having a lack of direction and not sure what choices to make in their relationships or their career, and of course with their life purpose too. So yeah, quantum healing helps to gain a lot of clarity and understanding and see yourself and your life from a higher perspective, from a different perspective, and that really helps. So there's many different types of benefits. Like I said, a lot of people get a lot of peace from their loved ones, and even just knowing with their pets too that they can reconnect with them as well.
It was such a beautiful thing for me to discover, and I've discovered it in multiple lives now. But something I didn't even factor in, something wouldn't even cross my mind. You know, it's just really beautiful. And then from that, it's a fictional book, but there's some fictional books. I think that's called A Dog's Journey, and it's a movie as well. And it follows a reincarnation cycle of a dog that just reincarnates all the time as a dog. But and I bought those books for my dad for Christmas because my dad just loves anything about reincarnation now.
Oh, that's so cool.
Every Brian
totally
Weiss book, and yeah, someone who's not spiritual. It sort of annoys my mum. Like, he's been reading all these books, and my mum's like, I read that 20 years ago. He wasn't even interested. And I'm like, yeah, but look at him now.
He's coming to the party now.
Isn't it good that he's evolved though?
Yes,
you know,
exactly. And she helped him, on his awakening, because she had all the books there. And then when it's the right time for him,
exactly,
it's there for him. So,
and then she could also talk to him about it too.
Exactly.
I guess she was sort of frustrated that she couldn't talk to him about 20 years ago. You know,
but it's okay.
It all takes time.
Everyone in their own time. That's it. And so what do you think has been, how's your life been different after your QHHT session? Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Obviously, yeah.
Like I said, I don't think my little baby girl would be here. No, I know. Not think. I know. It was the turning point. It was honestly the turning point, having that connection with Hilda, and just letting go and just saying, whatever happens, happens. That would be my biggest piece of advice for trying to manifest anything into your life. I mentioned that I'm a big fan of Michael Singer, and, he says that manifestation is the least spiritual thing you can do, because you just let life happen to you, like, I would highly recommend to read anything by Michael Singer, by the way, especially the Surrender Experiment. But, if you just surrender to what is, you will find, that life's pretty great, and you'll find so much joy in what you have, instead of just, everyone's always, I wrote a big post about this recently on my page, that, everyone's always, thinking, if I get this, I'll be happy. And then when you get that, it's always the next thing. Or if I get this. But when did the if stop, If you're not desiring anything outside of yourself, it's a very famous Buddhist saying that, any form of desire or attachment is the root of all suffering. And to me, that's so true. If you're not desiring anything outside of yourself, you won't be suffering, you won't be in pain. And to me, that recollection has just brought great peace into my life. And, not focusing so much on that baby is what brought that baby into this world.
Yes.
It's amazing, you know what I mean? Because it was the first time in 5 years that I was just honest to God, not thinking about it, and had let it go. My life has changed dramatically in the 2 years since I've known you. Obviously becoming a mother, but just my psychic ability also just exploding.
I was going to say, would you say it's expanded more now since you've had your session?
Definitely. And it's also expanded more since I became a mother.
Yes.
I don't think I've talked to you about this, but, my psychic ability mainly pertains to my soul, obviously, and I see other lives. People contact me and say, oh, can I get a psychic reading and stuff? But I'm like, I can't really do that for other people. Yeah. Plus, I don't advocate for that. I think that your higher self is you. It's literally you. So no one knows yourself better than them. So just learn how to connect with them. If you want a psychic reading, ask yourself. But then it's also to me too that, if you're wanting to know what happens in the future, that's also desiring something. Yeah. You should just be happy with what's now. Yeah. You know what I mean? What's in the now.
They all say, don't they? The spiritual teachers say.
Yeah.
Focus on the now. Be in
Focus
the now.
on the now.
Be
It's
present,
so
be
true
mindful.
though.
It is.
It's so true. What was I saying? Yeah, just how my my psychic ability is just absolutely exploded, and the things I've
That's
learned
awesome.
and seen. But yeah, the QHHT, it did give me what I wanted, that I did get that really in-depth perspective, and I connected with my higher self on a different level, and I've kept that connection now. I have a really strong connection with my higher self. I talk to my higher self daily. Like, I don't really, I don't know if I said this on this podcast or to you the other day, but I don't really identify as myself as Ashley. I identify myself as Johanna. So I really know that we are multidimensional beings. We're just an actor playing many, many, many parts.
Which I think is one of the main things you're here to meant to help and teach, is that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not just you. That's just one aspect of your soul.
That's it. And I think once people really actually understand that and take that in, it'll really help to shift their perspective on this current life and help them to live differently. You know, once you understand things from that perspective, it really changes your just everything about your life. The way you see it, your goals could change. You know, what you want to, just how you live on a daily basis.
Yeah,
right,
even like the fact, like for me, right, there's things that I've wanted to do in my life that I've not had the opportunity to. I've always had the biggest passion for music, always, since birth. It's one of my favorite things in the world, but I was never afforded the opportunity to learn a musical instrument. But I've seen that in other lives that I'm quite a talented musician in more than one life, you know, and I think, well, I don't need to be doing it in this life because I'm doing it in those lives. That's so cool.
Yeah.
You know, so even that has given me peace knowing, like, there's been a life that I would never have guessed that, and I have no skill in this life, especially that I was a trapeze artist. And it's quite funny because the high school I went to was like the New South Wales state champs, like forever. They've always been in like gymnastics and trampolining. And, you know, I'm fat now, but when I was younger, I was quite skinny and I had the perfect like gymnast body. I was tiny and, you know, and very petite. And my teachers always thought, oh yeah, she'd be so good. But I suck so bad. Yeah, I've seen a life where I was a trapeze artist and it was so beautiful. The most beautiful visions for me in other lives are when I'm in the now. I'm just in the flow of life and not thinking about anything else. And I just had this beautiful moment of being up on the bars and I remember pulling myself up and feeling like the weight in my muscles and stuff like that, you know. And that's not something I could do in this life. And especially as a teenager, I sort of resented that because it was sort of expected of me. But I was like, well, I don't need to do it because I did it. I've done it.
Exactly.
I'm doing it in another life, you know. And then I'm sure that other lives, if they knew me, well, they do. I know one. I've met one, you know, and she's actually had a QHHT session, and she was saying, yeah, but my ego was getting in the way, and I didn't get as much out of it as you. And I'm like, you don't need to compare your experience to my experience.
Yeah, that's like, really important that people don't.
You know, she's one of the incarnations that's really good at music. And I was like, I suck at music, but I'm not going, you know, I suck compared to you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I don't need to be good at it because I'm good at it in your body.
Exactly.
You know, or I'm good at it in Joseph's body or whoever's body that I'm doing that in, or I'm good at tennis. Or it's really funny. I'll just leave one more story that, you know how I was saying that sometimes I take on their energy.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I had this it was linked to the incarnation that got left at the altar, and one of her favourite things to do was play tennis. Now, being short, I suck at tennis. But I remember I somehow got thrown into the situation not long after that I had to play tennis, and I was on fire. And I was like, what is happening to me? And I think it was because I was channeling the energy of Rin. That's her name. It's a Japanese name that it translated into English is Lin. Yeah, and yeah, you know, like it doesn't matter if you don't have talents and abilities in this life because you probably have them in other lives. And that's because wouldn't it be boring to do the same thing in every single life?
100%.
So boring, you
100%.
know? You're here to have different, and that's the whole reason, and I'll get into that in another podcast, that one of the reasons why higher self might decide to have simultaneous lives, meaning that they might decide to have more than one incarnation in the same physical timeline. So that means that I've literally met myself in another body, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that there's two more of me that live in England. I haven't met them and I don't want to meet them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously I can't go back and meet Pete Davey because he's in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't meet Hilda because I think she died. Yeah, she died in the 1980s, which just sort of before I was born, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I can't meet them because they're in different timelines.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people, incarnations in my physical timeline. I've forgotten the point what I was talking about with that. Do you remember what I was saying?
I don't know.
I was just saying that. Oh, I can't remember.
I can't remember. I know. I feel like we're both getting delirious.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I can't remember what I was saying about. Oh yeah, we've got different abilities. Like I know I haven't met him, but I know he exists, right?
Yes.
There's a version of me that lives in England.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6 years younger than me. His name's Brian, and
Mm-hmm.
he's really tall. And I'm really short. It's just to have different experiences. It's just like a really quick way to level up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
life's a game. Life is literally like a video game, and it's just multiple characters
Mm-hmm.
being played at the same time. So why would you go through the same experience? You know, why
Exactly.
would you might have similarities. Like I share similarities with every single one of my
Mm-hmm.
incarnations, whether it's a physical thing or a behavioral thing, like even like the teeth gritting, like I said, or
Yes.
you know, Pete Davey, when he thinks he grabs his earlobes. I remember saying he had dirty earlobes. And I do that when I think I grab my earlobes. Like you have little weird connections to them, or you have similar interests sometimes. You might be interested in something and then like one of your past life cells or future life cells has the same interest. You know, whatever it is, music or sound healing or, you know, tennis or whatever. You might have the same, not that I have that interest in this life, but, you know, you might have a similar interest, but then you also have different interests because you're here to experience different things. You wouldn't incarnate in the same timeline. It's just like to split the jobs. It's like, okay, I've got all these things that I want to learn, right? It's like it's basically the practical part of a university course. That's what incarnating is, right? And it's like, okay, I've got all these practical things that I've got to achieve. Oh, I'm not going to be able to achieve that in one body, you know. Let's all right, let's have 4 bodies going at the same time. All right, and this body can do all these things. This body can be a psychic, okay, and do these things. This body can be a rapper because that's what Brian is, you know. He's not like a rapper, like that's not his job, but you know that's something he's passionate about. That like that's something that Brian and I have in common. Not rapping, but I'm a very good writer. You know, before I started writing about this sort of stuff, one of my biggest passions is writing poetry. And, you know, so, you know, rapping is basically poetry to music, isn't it? So, and then there's another incarnation that exists now that's very good at music, you know, so you've got those similarities, but, you know, they're different. It's to share the workload, essentially. You want to be, you know, doing different things. Otherwise, it's like you wouldn't double up on the tasks, would you? Like, if you had a job list to do at work and you had to split them between colleagues, you wouldn't say, all right, you do this exact same job as me. It just doesn't make any sense, does it? You've got to tick all the different jobs off. That's it. Off the list. Well, that's how I see how
100%,
incarnations.
I think it explained that really, really well. Yeah.
Yeah, how incarnations work. I've got one more question, or no, 2 more questions to ask you. Okay. What's the most important information that you've learned so far spiritually that you think?
Definitely that we're all one. Yeah. And you know, when I was searching, you know, for so long, like about who we are and where we come from, and you know, what's the truth? What, you know, where your soul gets to a point where you're just searching and searching and searching, and you really want to know, you know, where we came from. What's the go with all this? What is this reality? Who are we? Where do we come from? And that's what all the spiritual teachers say, right? We are all one. But what does that mean? Like we're all from the one source, divine, God, universal consciousness, whatever name you want to put to it. I think that's the most important thing that I've learned.
I think that's the most important thing I've learned too.
Yeah.
And I've definitely experienced the oneness through meditation and things.
Me
and
too. Yes.
Yeah, it's
feeling,
amazing.
The love energy that comes through.
Yeah.
Yes.
I even experienced it when I was with you, didn't I?
Did
I was
you
in
in the
that
session?
Zen. Yeah, in that Zen
Yes, you
state.
did.
Yeah.
Yes. You had a little break in between, I think, Pete Davey and
Yeah, when I was
Hilda.
trying to shake off Pete's energy, yeah.
And
And I was in that Zen
yes,
moment. And, that's what I was saying, that Hilda, I had experienced those Zen moments too. You really I wrote a post about it recently. Nothing in life bothers you. Nothing. Everything you just think is just so perfect and beautiful and full of love. And that's what it is, because that is I'm going to say resonance. I don't know this is what I mean about being channeled words. I'm like, here I am looking at it from the outside going, does that word really make sense? But if I'm being told this word, it does. It's the resonance of the energy that we are, that's the vibration we are. We are made of love.
Yes.
That's the only energy that really exists.
Yes.
Is love, and it's in everything. So when people are looking for God, God is everywhere. You're God. I'm God.
Yes.
Plants are God. Every sort of thing on earth is God, because we're all one.
Yes,
like you say.
exactly.
That is the most important thing to learn, which is hard for people to understand. We're split into different incarnations and things.
It can get confusing because the mind gets in the way too. And I think when you're at a certain level of consciousness, you can only understand it from that perspective. And so once, humanity evolves and, consciousness expands, then you can start to understand more.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it too, is having these experiences with different perspectives and understanding.
Yeah. But we also live in the dimension that we live in on Earth is a duality as well. That's the whole part of it,
Yeah.
It's a dichotomy, which basically means that we can be one and separate at the exact same time. So, yeah. So, I have obviously loved my experience with you, and I would love others to experience what I've had with you, because it was such an amazing thing. How could listeners book in for a session with you, or find out info about you, where to go to, and what to do if they want to see you?
Yeah, well, probably the best place to go to is my website, so www.elizabethleeqhht.com.au, and then you can, have a look around there, watch some videos, read through the information, and then you can contact me on the contact page or email me directly, and all the information's there on my website.
Awesome. Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that Elizabeth is based in the Newcastle, Macquarie region of Australia, because I've got listeners all over the world.
Yes.
So, yeah, if you are local to that area of Australia, please check Elizabeth out. I'll also put your website and stuff in our show notes. So, guys, if you there'll be a link to click on. So she'll be really easy to find. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming to share your experiences and letting me explain mine.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a
That's
blast.
okay. I thought it was so important to, it wasn't, I have these experiences and stuff, but especially when I go to Reiki, or if I go to acupuncture, or if I go to QHHT, it's not just me that's, I guess what I'm saying is it's been facilitated by you, and I want to show my gratitude and express to people that, that these healing modalities are so much more than what people realize, and they can just bring you so much comfort and understanding and healing, and they're just a wonderful thing. And I think part of my mission is to share this information with people so they know where to find these, things like QHHT. People might not have even heard of that. And no, I certainly hadn't until I got this ability. And it's such a wonderful thing that is literally life changing, and it can just help you so much. And like you said, give you purpose in life, and just give you that, piece of, why you're here. That's really
huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. And everyone always gets what they're meant to get. So
yeah, that's a really good point.
That's a really main point there, that everyone's so different on their own unique journey, and everyone gets what they're meant to get in their session. So it's really important. You don't need to go and look up a whole bunch of other people's sessions and listen to all their stuff, because that's not really going to help you, because that's their journey.
Yep.
And you need to focus on your own journey. And when you come along to a session, either, with me or another practitioner, then you're going to get what you're meant to get for your soul journey.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's what I say to people too. That's one of the biggest things I say, is that, the the best way to heal yourself is by doing it. And you know this, Elizabeth's just explained it. She's done it herself. The best way to heal yourself is to do it yourself, you know. But we're very lucky that we have people like you to help facilitate that within us. So it's a bit of a team effort. So
Definitely.
yeah, but always trust in your higher self, and you know, they've always got your back. It's you.
It is.
It's the most important.
It is your soul. It is you.
Yeah, it's your soul. It's you. It's the most important connection that you have in your life. So,
and to
trust thank you so much.
Your intuition. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you so much again for having me, Ashley.
That's okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. Check me out on Facebook at my page, Psychic Time Traveler, and my other page, The Real Truth About Twin Flames.